Thanks for being here. This is our last MyStar Learning series of the school year, and we'll start again in August. So look for that. But we would like to tell you about some new resources that we have that are going to be, they're either already published or they're going to be published by July, early August, so well before you start to come back and think about planning. And we also have some things that have been around for a little bit and they're useful. And then we also have Eileen with us here from Michigan Eagle, and she has all kinds of good stuff that she's going to talk to you about, and we'll take a little time to look at that might also help you if you're thinking about doing something, hands-on, place-based-ish for your kids next year. So again, we have the sign-in link on slide 2. So we're going to talk about, we have 2 new off-the-shelf lessons coming out. We have new differentiated CERs coming out, and we'll let you dig in and take a look at some samples of that. We have a veteran teacher's pacing guide and that has been published, and I'll show you that. And we are also going to publish a whole collection of reading guide templates so that you can make your own reading guides or differentiated reading guides if you'd like, starting in the fall. And we've updated our teacher resources library. We'll look at that.
Get kind of close and like move it around.
We'll have some place-based education resources from Eileen. So I'm here, and I know all or most of you. I'm Chris Gear, and I'm the MyStar Professional Learning Coordinator. Eileen Bokenstein is with us today. She's the Environmental Education Coordinator from Eagle. Marianne is with us today, Marianne Simonis, who is our program director at MyStar, and Lindsay is here. Lindsay and I kind of tag team the work for the learning for the learning series. And so she's our MyStar Learning Series facilitator. And you will be getting an email from her sometime in the next week or so with a recording of this and a link to the slides and a list of any links to any resources that we use today. And I will be sending you the sketch information also. So you can look for a couple of emails from us in the next week or so. All right, so let's talk about new resources. And if you are a PLF and you came to the PLF check-ins last week, some of this will look a little bit familiar, but there's going to be a few different things and a little more depth on some of them. So one of the things I'd like to use is an icebreaker. I know everybody hates icebreakers, but I'm going to put you in some groups and let you talk to a few people, introduce yourself, have a little small group conversation, and then you'll be in that same group later on when we do another activity. So I'll call it an icebreaker. But we've had lists of resources for a while. They used to be on 3 different Google Docs, one for PLFs and one for teachers and one for organizational stuff. And we updated and rearranged them and try to make them look a lot nicer and kind of sorted through things earlier this year. And so under the resources tab now, there's just one document. It says it's called MyStar Teacher Resources. And hopefully it's easier to skim and select what you need. It is still just a big Google Doc because that's what we have to work with, but it's bookmarked to help you jump to the different sections. And so in your breakout rooms, I'd like you to introduce yourself. You can chat a little bit with the people you find in the room. Often the best stuff, the most useful stuff that you'll get at one of these learning series will come from a colleague, not necessarily from me. So go ahead and say hi. Take a minute or two to look at that teacher resources library, and I linked it on slide 7. You can also always find it on the MyStar homepage under the resources tab. And then I'm going to ask you to take a look at it and maybe pick one thing that you find useful or interesting. And all right, thanks everybody. Welcome back. And thanks for what you managed to get on there. I know I didn't give you a lot of time, and I'm glad that you got to meet and talk to a few other MyStar teachers and teacher leaders. And that's always important. So yeah, navigation is a little tricky. It's because we're limited by our Google Docs. but hopefully it's not too bad. So I mostly just wanted you to see that that exists. Know that you can go in there and hunt and search for things. And then always remember, if there is something that you're looking for and you can't find it easily, you don't have time to search for it, or you're not seeing it, shoot me an email, and I can find you what we have, and kind of dig stuff up. I'm the librarian, so I can find stuff for you. All right. So let's talk about our off-the-shelf lessons. So this was a request that we had from some teachers in the fall who were teaching Unit 6.3, and Unit 6.3 used to have a lesson that kind of addressed conservation of mass. And we took it out when we did the revisions because everybody says all the time, the units are too long, right? Make them shorter. And conservation of mass, this concept is actually a 5th grade PE. So we took it out, and then we had teachers say, yeah, but my kids still don't know it. So Lindsay and I have been working for quite a few months on this off-the-shelf lesson that you can use if your kids need it. To think about conservation of mass, it's going to be good for Unit 6.3, Unit 7.5. What's our other chemistry? 7.4 has a lot of chemistry in it. So if your kids are looking at molecules and atoms and chemical reactions and stuff like that. 6.7 has a fair amount of chemistry in it too. So just know that we have a couple of teachers who are piloting it for us right now, and we're going to take their feedback and tweak it as needed, and then we'll publish it over the summer. So if you're teaching something that's has a lot of chemistry and you want to maybe kind of pencil this in for the first, it has 2 Uncover shares. It's probably 6 or 7 days. So if you want to pencil that in for September, that will be available to you within the next couple months. And then the other one that we have coming out, we've actually presented it at MSTA. So if you were there and you came to that session, you maybe saw some of this. But it's our 5th grade team put this together. And again, this is going to be a 5th grade PE on determining evidence in a CER. So our CER off-the-shelf unit or off-the-shelf lesson currently talks about how do you build that reasoning box, how do you write that reasoning statement. But if your kids are struggling with evidence and how to pick the right evidence, the good evidence, the stuff that's applicable and accurate, this lesson would be good. And especially it's 5th grade, but it's, could easily stretch to 6th grade, maybe 7th grade. So it involves kids to think about, why do we need evidence? What's the purpose of evidence? And where do we get the evidence? And how do we evaluate it? So that also will be published over the summer. And so that might be also a good, September kind of thing to pencil in. And I think this one just has 1 Uncover share. So maybe plan for like 5 days on that one. But it's got some really good activities, some really good discussion for kids to think about what makes evidence helpful, and then how do you know when it's accurate? All right, and so this is another big project that we've been working on all year, and we are about ready to publish it. We realize that we have inconsistent formatting for CERs in our units, and that's because the whole NGSS journey, people learn as they go, and that it's not just us, but everybody in NGSS world. And so we've been learning more about CERs and what kids struggle with and how we can help them as we go. And so we have our off-the-shelf lesson on CERs, but then our formatting doesn't always match that in the units. It's not bad formatting, it's just not consistent. And so we really wanted to make it consistent, and consistent similar to the one that's in the off-the-shelf on CERs. And so since we were going to go through and try to make them all consistent, we decided we should probably take this opportunity to differentiate them as well. And so what you're going to find when this gets published, and it's going to look something like this is our rough draft of what it'll look like published, is every single unit that has CERs in it. We've identified the location of those CERs, whether it's Uncover or Connect. Sometimes it's in the Check Your Progress or the pre-post test or whatever. And we've provided you a link to a CER that's formatted in this consistent format, and you'll have a variety of levels of scaffolding. So we've written in prompts and sentence starters and things like that for that specific CER at several different levels. And so you would go into that Google Doc and delete what's there and take what we're giving you and just plop it in before you print. So it's not a perfect situation, but we didn't want to go back and replace everything because we have a lot of teachers who like what's there, and they, we throw new things at them, it throws them off. So we're going to leave what's there. And if you're happy with what's there, you can ignore this. But if you're like, yeah, I think that might be good, or it might be good across all 3 grades, across, school wide or something, to use that consistent format, you can look at doing this. And so this is our table that helps us describe the level of scaffolding. So we're using the same levels as our DRGs, our differentiated reading guides. So level B is basic. That's going to be probably below grade level. And we didn't do grade specific. We're doing grade band specific. So level B would be below the grade band expectations, which means your 6th graders for, level B might be perfectly appropriate. That might be the grade level level that you choose, for 6th grade or into 7th grade. Level A is where you would hope 8th graders would be. You may have some 6th graders who are there already, or some 7th graders. So level A is the proficient grade band level. And then we are going to offer you level C is the blank one. So if you have kids who are off the charts amazing and they don't want any help and they just want to do it themselves, or they're looking for the challenge, they'll get the blank one that looks like this and they can go for it. So I would like to offer you the opportunity now to take a look at some of these, and we'd be happy to have your feedback, frankly, before we finally do our final publishing. So on slide 21, I have a link to a document where I put some stuff for you to look at. So it looks like this. This is the original CER. It's from Unit 8.4, which is about an asteroid might be hitting the Earth, and the students don't know if it's an asteroid or a comet or what kind of object it is, and then they have to figure out, is it going to hit the Earth? And so in this lesson 2, they still don't know there's an object, we don't know what it is. So this is what it looks like in the original Unit Challenge Organizer. So not too bad, kind of similar format. But this is what level A looks like now. Level A is the grade band proficient, and this is what level B, the grade band basic, looks like. And then this is what it would look like for those off the chart, beyond grade level kids. So I'm going to invite you to we're going to go back in your same groups, take a look at those, have a little conversation with your colleagues, and maybe just jot down some see, think, wonder kinds of things. Let us know what you think about it, if you have questions and things like that. And then we'll come back. I'll pull you back in about 7 or 8 minutes, and we'll see what you think. All right. All right. Thanks. Everybody's back. Lots of good feedback. Thank you so much. And I know I probably could have given you a lot more time. Lindsay and I were just we had talked about this before, but we'll do a learning series in the fall, specifically on these differentiated CERs, and we'll probably maybe think about throwing in the reading guides too, and just talk in general about differentiation and how you can set that up in your classroom if you want kids working at different levels at the same time. Which you're going to probably do with the reading guides as well, but we'll definitely have some kind of PL, some learning series PL to dig into these more in the fall, and continue to, get your feedback and stuff. But so I'm going to kind of look at the wonders and see if we can talk a little bit about what you're wondering about. And so I see team 1 wonders if the development team has guidance when to move from level B to A to C. So if you're doing it whole class, we did kind of outline how the scaffolding was going to change from level to level in this document. And then we set up a proficiency grading kind of rubric for level B, level A, and level C. And these are available, just so you know, in this teacher guidance draft that's linked on slide 16. And it'll be there when we publish them in a month or so. But also, if you want to look at them, sooner, they're linked in that guidance draft. But so I would say that when most of your kids are proficient at one level, then you might move to the next level. I don't know grade level. I would guess level B is going to be sixth grade. Maybe by seventh grade or the middle of seventh grade, your kids will be able to do, most of them will be able to do level A. I'm not sure. Level A is what we were hoping kids would be able to do by the end of eighth grade, but level A may seem too easy for some of your eighth graders. I know I taught honors eighth grade and I would have given them the blank one. So it depends. And then, you may want to think about offering kids choice or, or setting it up so that you can have kids working at different levels at the same time. And we can talk about some of those strategies. How do you set up your classroom and explain it to your kids and stuff when we do that PL in the fall. And if you really want to know before that, because you want to hit the ground running or something, send me an email and I'd be happy to chat with you about that. Because I did do a fair amount of that in my classroom before I taught MyStar even. All right, team 2 is wondering about the pronouns and the bullets encourage sentences. Yes, the bullets encourage sentences. That's a visual prompt for the kids. Yep, put something there, or phrases. And then the thing with the pronouns, that comes up fairly often when we present on CERs at MSTA or NSTA. And we have traditionally, historically in MyStar used pronouns because it feels kid-friendly to us. But if you, in your science department or in your building or your district, are encouraging that formal level of writing, then I would suggest when you pull up that Google Doc before you cut and paste and print it, you just change the wording so the pronouns aren't there. I do know that is a consideration, for a lot of people. That's what they want their kids to do. Team 3 is how will they work in a class with a variety of students. So you need to kind of set up. I always work to build a classroom culture of everybody has different strengths and weaknesses, and everybody has good days and bad days. And how do you select what's best for you on this day? And I'm going to help you. If you select badly, I'll help you. Kids tend to self-select pretty darn well, but I have some ways to kind of set that up. And once that's set up, then you just say, hey, you could, we're going to do CERs today. Here's level A, B, and C. Pick the one that, you want today. So we'll do PL around that in the fall for sure. And then this was an interesting thought. Somebody said, if we focus on consistency, are we doing a disservice to students because they may not see that exact same template in other classes, because CERs are also in ELA and social studies. They may not see it exactly in that pattern, on MSTEP or something like that. And if that's a concern, then go ahead and keep some of those original ones. And you don't have to use these. They're optional, or you don't have to use them all the time. That is an interesting thought. We did offer the different formats in our assessments, the consistent format for our assessments, because I didn't want to, we didn't want to throw kids off where they've used one format, and then all of a sudden on the assessment, it's a different format. So we did give you the option of keeping that consistent format throughout our assessments. But that, again, is a choice that, you can make as a classroom teacher or as a building or a district. Okay, so thanks for that. I'm going to move us on so that we can get through all the good stuff today. Just so that we hear all the time, teachers are frustrated because stuff takes too long and they can't get through all of the stuff that they're supposed to, or their administrator thinks they should do more, or, you're never going to get to all the standards. And some of that is structural, way outside of our circle of influence. There's 59 PEs in middle school and GSS, and it's just too many. But we also realized that when the MyStar lessons were written, quite often the team was looking at, well, this activity takes 20 minutes and this one takes 20 minutes and this one takes 20 minutes. So that's one class period. And well, in real life, nothing happens like that. You've got a million things that happen in the middle of your teaching or right before you get started teaching or at the end of the class period or whatever. There's lots and lots of other stuff to consider. So Jen Pera, who many of you may know is recently retired MyStar teacher, she and I sat down this winter and went through all of those lesson plans, and we changed the pacing guide. Most of the time, we pretty much doubled it. So if it said 3 days, we were like, yeah, this is more like 5. And so that is reflected in our scope and sequence document now, where it gives you the number of weeks per unit. And then we have this pacing guide that is just much more realistic. And we did not go in and change all of the lesson plans because Kendall Hunt has been working really hard to print all of those in the teacher guides. And they were like, yeah, we can't go back and change all those right now. So what you see online is the original stuff, but if it's helpful to you, we have a more realistic pacing guides, and then as soon as Kendall Hunt goes through another print cycle or whatever, we'll change them with them too. So that's there. We did publish parent letters for every unit this year. They're on the homepage of the unit on the dashboard, and then we're working on Spanish, and we're going to have Spanish by the fall. So it turns out that if you use Google Translate, it does not translate exactly the way people speak about science in real life. In Spanish-speaking countries, we have some native Spanish speakers and some fluent Spanish speakers on our staff, and they're like, yeah, that's not how we would say it. So we Google translated it, and then we're going to go through and make it sound like a real Spanish speaker said it, and then we're going to publish those over the summer. And then I'm working on this. I just kind of put this together in the last week or two, and so we'll have this for you for the fall too. But I've been wanting to do this for a long time. All of those templates that you'll find for the differentiated reading guides, all of those different strategies, I put them all together. I have like 23 of them, and put them all together in a document with a link to a template and a link to an example from MyStar, and also a reference if you want to learn more about it. And we'll have those for you. And then you find something cool, something newsworthy shows up, and you want, and it fits with what you're teaching, and you want to give it to kids, but how do you write all those questions and stuff? You'll have a whole bunch of choices. And so we'll do some PL around this also, like how would you do that? And then we can even talk about how would you differentiate them. We get real ambitious, but anyway, look for that coming also. All right, so lots of good things coming in the fall. All right, I'm going to shift to our place-based focus. The state has a real focus, and they're really trying to encourage the MDE, Department of Ed, is really trying to encourage science classrooms to think about place-based education. And so we have some resources for you. And place-based education for me as a classroom teacher was like, oh, I can't do that. It's way too much work. I'm going to lose my mind, or it's going to be, no good deed goes unpunished. So, but sometimes you're envisioning something bigger than it has to be, to still bring in that place-based piece. So I would invite you right now, we'll just take a minute on slide 30. Grab one of these little check marks. And if we run out of check marks, you can just copy and paste some more or whatever, and vote. Which of these do you think would be a place-based education experience? And obviously you can select more than one. So, all right. See a few people still moving some check marks, but pretty clearly, looks like there's some consensus that most or all of these are place-based, and could make your unit more place-based, kind of on a continuum from, more place-based to like extremely place-based. These will move you along that continuum. And some of these are not terribly time-consuming and complicated, right? But they can still really give your kids great experiences. So why should we even think about this? Why is MDE, kind of pushing this as a goal and a vision? Place-based education is great for building equity. You're doing something that's local in the community that all your kids, have some experience with or can experience firsthand. It really is helpful for your English language learners, your special ed kids, your 504, anybody who's at risk to have what they're doing in science have that context and that storyline, which is important, but also have it be a local context, where they can have personal interactions and personal responses and take action personally, is very engaging. It's good for all your kids, but it's also, kind of lifts that level for everybody. It can be very engaging for kids. It promotes rightful presence and builds science identity. So kids who may not see themselves as scientists or as being, smart enough or whatever for science, hey, yes, you can do this. And let's let you get your hands dirty and show you how, and help build that confidence. And so we do have a place-based education guidance document. It's actually a series of slides, and we did this several years ago, but and it's in the resource library. But we kind of defined place-based learning for our definition. And then we went through all of our units and we talked about where are there good connections for place-based. Not every unit is going to line itself up easily with place-based, but a lot of our units do. And so, you don't necessarily want to do maybe place-based in every single unit, but you might see something on here that you're like, oh yeah, I do unit 6-2. I could make this connection with kids. So that's a resource that's there. This is some guidance from some of our MyStar teachers who have done place-based stuff with MyStar units. Start small, that's okay. You can build on this from year to year. It can happen right on your school grounds or someplace distant. But if transportation is what's holding you back, see if there's something you can do, on school grounds. And then think about those local resources. And that's going to lead me right into introducing Eileen from EGLE, because she's a local resource. And so, Eileen, I'm going to let you take it away. Eileen's going to talk about things that Eagle has to offer classroom teachers that could help you maybe pull off some of this place-based stuff in your classroom.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. And I'll just have you run the slides. I'll just let you know when it's time to move them. So hello, everybody. My name is Eileen Bookestein. I'm the Environmental Education Manager at the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy. That is what EAGLE stands for. We, if you've been around Michigan for a while, you might remember the DEQ, Department of Environmental Quality. We're the same agency. We just got rebranded a few years back. So you can go ahead and go to the next slide, Chris. For those who are not familiar with what we do at EAGLE, we are focused on environmental management, environmental protection. So we are the regulatory agency that is ensuring that those rules and regulations around the environment get followed throughout the state. We also do quite a bit of work with community organizations and grant funding and outreach and education around those environmental topics. So my role, if you want to go to the next slide, is to facilitate our environmental education work. And that kind of falls under the umbrella of what we call EAGLE Classroom. And so lots of resources that we can help provide you all when it comes to teaching about Michigan's environment and Michigan's natural resources. So we work closely with the DNR, Department of Natural Resources. They've got lots of resources too that are separate than ours. But a lot of my time is spent working with educators of all kinds, but especially K-12 educators around the state to help you all connect to what we have so that you can use it in the classroom. So we do have some lessons as well that are Michigan specific that can support content area knowledge that you could use to pick and pull pieces from to give a Michigan spin to different environmental topics you're speaking about. That's the MEEKS curriculum there. We have a lending library of materials models, some testing equipment that educators can use. It doesn't cost anything to borrow those things. You can borrow them and pick them up from one of our 10 offices around the state that you can use to talk about things like watershed and flooding or water quality or air quality. We do host a student leadership conference every spring for middle and high school students called the Student Sustainability Summit. So if that's something that your school is really interested in and you've got students who are interested in that, stay tuned. We just hosted that 2 weeks ago, so it'll come back April, May of next year. Some of you I know on the call are part of the Michigan Green Schools program here. So this is our statewide recognition program for schools that do environmental and sustainability work and education. Um, and then we do some stuff around Earth Day and provide some video resources and things. So that's kind of the big umbrella of all of the things we do with Eagle Classroom. What I'm going to spend a little bit of time, not super long, but a little bit of time talking to you about today is that whole idea of how you can make your lessons place-based, because I've worked with a lot of teachers who use MyStar over the years, and I found that it actually lends itself pretty well in some instances to becoming a place-based resource because it's already, focused on a phenomenon, and it's not super hard to make it specific or to apply that topic to something that's happening in your own community. And it doesn't have to be, I really loved the advice that the veteran teachers came. It doesn't have to be a huge, big project. It can be something as simple as using some local data for an example, or talking to a local community organization. If you want to go to the next slide, it can be as complicated as doing a big project. And I just wanted to throw this out there. Something that we launched this year, just a couple of weeks ago, is this Sustainability Project Showcase. So if you are a school that is really into place-based education and your students have done a really cool project, it could be as a green team, it could be as a school, a class project, it could be an extracurricular club. We want to showcase those and share those out because sometimes teachers do want to do a project or a community action project and they just don't know where to start or how to connect it back to their curriculum. So this is a new resource where you can explore projects that other schools have done around the state, other extracurricular groups. We've preloaded some with schools that we've worked in there, but you can actually submit projects that you've done to this as well. And it asks you some questions about, like, did you tie this back to any particular curriculum? So at some point down the road, once we've got this more populated, you might go through here and see, oh, this teacher who also does MyStar did this really cool project and they connected it back to their curriculum. So that's a resource for you all if you are interested in using that. And I just wanted to make sure that you all saw that. But what we're going to talk about today is how data that is available from the state of Michigan, specifically environmental data, because that's where I'm housed, can really help you, flesh out and provide some place-based, some local context to what you're teaching. So I did a session at MSTA this year where I talked about how to connect local data into your classroom and how you might be able to use it. And there's a lot of places it can connect in there. So beyond the obvious, working with our staff and looking at the ways that they collect and analyze and implement the data, that's looking at the scientific and engineering practices, right? And we use those practices as scientists and engineers. We have most of who works in our agency, we use those practices every day. And so even something I will encourage you, I was glad that people said like bringing in a guest speaker can be place-based. We have staff who love to talk to classrooms. So if you ever want someone to come and talk about their work, really help the students to see that all of this stuff that we're talking about and making you do in class, like it's real, it's in the real world, people really do it. We're not just like telling you that this is a skill you need to learn. We can help bring some of those experts in to talk about their work. But there's lots and lots of places where we connect to all of the different DCI. So I think that sometimes people think, oh, the environmental stuff, it's kind of in the earth science or it's in the life science, but we've got some really cool data and resources that can connect back to chemical reactions, especially. So the chemistry side is really cool with our air quality work and our water quality work and some of the environmental contamination data. Really nice way to pull the chemistry side in. We obviously do tons of work that applies directly to the idea of human impacts and minimizing those. And then even though we are more on the environmental quality, a little bit more the abiotic factor side, the reason that we're studying these abiotic factors as an agency is to determine how they affect the rest of the ecosystem, how they affect human health, how they affect other communities. So lots of connections there. And then of course, the engineering and the technology side. We're using those practices every day. We have a lot of engineers who work for us. It's kind of interesting. We go to these My Career Quest, big career event around the state, and we often get stuck in the IT sector because of the way that we use data and analyze it, because that's a really important skill for our students to have. So that's kind of the background of how the data is all connected to this work. But what happens with me a lot of times is teachers will reach out to me and say, I really want a data set, like a local data set that I can use in the classroom on this topic, that students can manipulate the data and they can try to understand an issue. And I find that sometimes educators don't always understand exactly what our state data actually looks like. So if you want to head to the next slide, I have some examples of what state data looks like. Again, a lot of times people are hoping that they're going to get like this nice clean data set that they can download, and students can do like big data work, or they can investigate water quality here or there. And it's just really not often that clean. And I actually think it's a really cool opportunity to talk about some of these science and engineering practices with students, because I tell them, we're collecting data for a very specific purpose. We're answering a very specific question as the State Department when we are collecting this data. And it's important for you and your students to understand what the question we're asking is, because that'll help you understand why the data looks the way it does. And that'll help you determine whether or not you might have a different question that you're trying to answer, and that might not match up. And trying to understand that whole process has been really interesting with some teachers in classrooms we've worked with. But maybe it does match up and maybe it is useful. And if nothing else, it's really interesting to explore and see what's out there. So just a little, I'm going to share with you on the next slide in a minute. You can stay here for now. A huge resource that has tons and tons and tons of data opportunities on it, but just to kind of you to see what this looks like. Some of our data looks like, yeah, you can download a spreadsheet and it's huge, and it is like a total disaster to read because you don't know what any of the headings mean or any of the the metadata. And so you can download that. It's not super great, but it's out there if you know how to clean it up and use it. There's tons and tons of like reports. So, you can go through and you can look up a contaminated site and you can see all of the reports that like the engineering companies did on what the cleanup looks like. You can look at pictures of their work. So looking at kind of a case study or an example of how something happens in real life. A lot of our data is visual. So we've been putting a lot of things online, and it is in these map-based, these geospatial formats. So we have a huge, huge amount of data in what's called our maps and data portal. It's all open, it's all free for people to use, but a lot of it looks like those kind of center pictures, or maybe there's a map that shows data points on different locations around the state, or maybe there's a dashboard that tells you different levels of environmental quality on different topics. So the one on the bottom is the air quality dashboard, and you can look at our monitoring stations and what air quality looks like around the state. So it looks really different depending on what you're looking for, but there's a lot of cool things out there. So if you want to go ahead and go to the next slide, the thing that I'm going to share with you today, and we'll have a little bit of time to kind of play around with and talk about, is this resource I put together when I did the presentation at MSTA. And then I was like, maybe other people would want to see this too. So what I did is went through our Eagle Maps and Data portal, and I pulled out anything that I thought, based on my experience working with teachers, would be useful. And this is at a variety of age levels, anywhere from little kids all the way up through high school. A lot of our stuff, I would say middle and high school level, at least, to be able to really engage with it and understand it. So this is separated out by different topic areas and different, potential ways you might use it. So some of these are really great resources just for learning more about a different topic. We have a lot of resources of something called a story map, where it's exactly what it sounds like. Literally it's kind of like a website that sort of like walks the students through a storyline and shares data in a very curated way to help them understand and learn more about a particular topic. So we've got lots of that. We have a whole bunch of like dashboards and map-based data representations that you can go through and you can look at data, and you can turn layers on and off, and you can download and export things if you want to play around with the raw data itself. There's a very few, but there are a few places where you can actually submit community science data or submit a report about something as well. So those are indicated. And then there are, as I mentioned, some of the story maps are a little bit more of like putting data into context. So we have a couple of things that are really interesting, like case studies of a particular area where we might have worked. Like there's at least one that's a case study of like an air quality problem that they found in one area and what they did, how they identified it, and what they did to solve it. So to help to see that real life example there. So those are all indicated on this giant list that you have. This is available for anybody to use. And although we have lots of other stuff we can share with you, what I wanted to do today was kind of just share this list and of resources, give you guys some time to poke around in it and kind of play with some of those resources, and then maybe have a discussion about ways that you might see yourself using them, or if you have questions about, is there something available that does X, Y, or Z? I'm happy to answer those as well. So Chris, I know you had kind of a structure for how we might do this that I will let you explain.
I'm gonna recreate the rooms, and I'll make 5 rooms, and you can choose this time which room you want to go in. So and then I went through this list and I picked out things that I thought might be kind of friendly, easy to look at, and related to invasive species, drinking water, climate, watersheds, and then room 5 is just going to be if none of those units are of interest to you and you want to just look around at some generic things, there are some things that could be used in a lot of different ways in group 5. And so I'm going to set this up so that you can choose your room. If you wouldn't mind, when you're in there, you're poking around, talking to whoever else is in there. If you look at 1 or 2 or 3 of these and you see something that looks useful and you jot it down, that's helpful to everybody who wants to go back later maybe and look at some of this stuff. If you find something that I didn't list and you want to add a row and list that, you're more than welcome. If you find yourself in the room all by yourself and you want to just go talk to people and you want to leave the room, that's also okay. You can, move in and out of rooms, no problem. So the goal was just to give you a little time to actually dig in, because I know teachers never have time. So I'm gonna.
And I'll just quickly add, most of these resources are Eagle data, but not all. So there are some resources that I pulled in from the Department of Natural Resources, Department of Health and Human Services, and some other areas. There's a whole section at the bottom, I think, of this that is like not non-state resources that I also recommend that people use. So it's largely state of Michigan resources, which means it's available to everybody, but there's some really good non-state sources too. So just as an FYI, it's not all ours.
And a few of those that I looked at were, as Eileen mentioned, kind of storyline things, and you're going to get reading guide templates over the summer. So if you see something that I like my kids to read this, but I need a structure for it, that's coming too. So, all right, I'm recreating and opening the rooms, and they're listed here, the room numbers. So go ahead and jump in and find the slide and find the links and take a look around, and we'll give you maybe about 10 minutes or so to do that. All right, thanks everyone. I know that wasn't a ton of time, and I'm assuming so there were great conversations going on. But thanks for taking a little bit of a look. And I will, you'll get these slides, and I'll leave. Nobody went to drinking water, and nobody went to 6.1, which is fine. But there's some notes in 6.6 and some notes for the multiple units, the kind of general stuff. And so we'll send you these in the next few days, so you have them as reference. And if you're looking for something and you don't know what to do with it and you want some ideas or you want some ideas for templates that you could use or whatever, if I can help you, I'd be happy to, send me an email and we can bounce ideas. And I'm sure, if there's something specific that you're looking for, I'm sure Eileen can help you find things too. So thanks so much. I do want to get you out of here on time. So these are links to some funding and grant opportunities. So if you're looking, this Wheels to Woods is really cool. They'll pay for buses to take your kids somewhere in the woods in Michigan. MSTA has a mini grant open right now. Eagle has Wheels to Water, same kind of idea. They'll help you pay for buses to take your kids to do water related field trips. Oh, and Eileen's popping in here, Great Lakes Green Schools Fellowship Program. Apply by May 31st. So I'm going to throw that in here.
We'll also probably almost certainly later in the summer or early fall be opening back up a grant program for water stewardship projects. So if you're doing a water focused action project, $5,000 to $10,000 range, that is going to come back out in the fall. So just be thinking about that if you're interested.
Okay. I'm gonna list what I can.
It's on the
after you
same
guys are
page
done.
as the Wheels to Water grant. So
Oh,
just
perfect.
check that one
Okay.
out.
All right. So Wheels to Water, the Eagle might be a good location to start. And then MAEOE also offers grants for things. So there are those. We have just a few minutes left. Does anyone have questions for Eileen? Go ahead and, unmute and just shout out.
I also just put in the chat, if you're interested in this environmental education, the statewide conference is going to be in Flint at the beginning of October, and we do have scholarships for educators, so that covers the conference expense, and that is open through, I think, the middle or end of June, so check that out as well.
All right. Thanks, Eileen. We'll pull those out and put them in the resources when we send out the agenda from this to everybody. Appreciate that. I used to write grants sometimes, and it was always fun to get money. And a lot of times, very few people bother to even do it, and you end up getting what you need. So, all right, sketches. This is our last PL for the 25-26 school year. So when we start training again in June and August, it'll be either our summer session or our fall, next year's session. So if you're keeping track of everything you've done with us on a sketch form that goes to Copper Country ISD, now would be the time to mail it. And I'll send you the information specifically for this session and another copy of the form and stuff, probably by tomorrow morning. But just a reminder that if you have been collecting those, now's the time to mail it. We do have our Facebook group that we'd be happy to have you on. And quite often Barb will post things like grant opportunities and stuff on our Facebook page also. So it kind of reminds you. And that's all we have for you. Thanks so much, Eileen, for being here. If you have feedback or topics of interest, we do have a link on that last slide. And if you have something that you want to talk to me or Marianne or Lindsay about, we'll hang out for a little bit and chat. But otherwise, thanks again for being here. And please feel free to go ahead and enjoy the rest of your evening.